Alrighty, so as we see here on our title slide, we are going to be finishing up some T-62s I've been working on. They thankfully are a lot further along than this title slide here suggests, so let's go to the camera view and see where we are. Rasmus says, I did get new faster internet. I had to take out the old cable and get new fiber instead. Awesome. I can't even imagine doing internet without some sort of fiber optic something or other. Let me see if I can decrease this glare here on the corner, because that's really annoying me. Oh, that looks worse for me, but maybe better for you guys. Alright. I'll make do. Okay. Maybe I'll just... No, that doesn't work either. I hate this house. I mean, I really do. Let me try this. I'm trying to get rid of that awful glare on the lower left-hand corner. Okay, that's not too bad. I'll do that. Sorry, guys. We didn't have the longest lead time on today's stream. But we are good to go now, hopefully. I'm also being a little... anal retentive here, which I shouldn't be. Cool. Alright, so like we said in the title stream, we are working on some T-62s. These are they. As you can see, hopefully they are almost done. It does look better with more light. Oh, okay, cool. The reduction in the glare made the T-60... Yeah, it looked horrible. So hopefully now it looks alright. Okay, so yeah, these T-62s are almost done. Let me change my focus here so that we can get a better look at what we're aiming at. Okay, so yeah, they're mostly done. Since that photograph that we were looking at a second ago, we do now see that the barrels are drilled out. They were base primed, I should say, flat black. And then they were sort of zenithal colored in this sandy gray. Then the airbrush went in and added the green and the brown. What I was going for was a little something like we see here in this reference photo, where the color scheme is predominantly Syrian army, T-62, 1973 Yom Kippur War. So a base of brown, and again, the probably... not quite 1/3 green and light brown. So I kind of did that. I may have done it a little too high contrast, because what I wound up with is something that almost looks 1943 German. This guy almost looks like he's ready to go to Kursk. He went through a little time warp. Now, the dark wash did tamp that down a great bit, and today we're going to be putting on some dry brush that will hopefully further slim it down. As far as tactical markings go, we are looking at really 1991 Iraqi. So we've got some Republican Guard markings there. The Syrian army did also have a Republican Guard, and then we have the 1991 Iraqi national colors on there. Let me see if I can fix that focus a smidge. Okay, now the good thing is on a 15mm model from 2 or 3 feet away, all you really see is the red, the white, and the black. So what this allows us to do is how I've painted a lot of my other Arab armies, is I just put them in basic Iraqi markings. Like these T-55s have seen service. Actually, this is technically a Type 59 too. It's a T-55 second hand, but then, oh wait, no, it's not all. How much did you pay? Don't answer yet. It's really a Type 59, which is a Chinese knockoff of the T-55. Then we go to enough. Oh my god, dude! Now it's giving me that bullshit. Alright, hopefully that'll get rid of that annoying little blue box you guys were seeing. And then on top of that, it's a Type 59, and then it gets purchased by the Iraqis from the Chinese, and they make it the Type 2. So it's an upgrade of a knockoff. Welcome to Middle East armor. You never know what you're going to get. But as you can see, it also has the Iraqi flag, but this thing has played as Syrian armor. This thing has played as Egyptian armor at least twice, including down at Doss Creek House. Because again, all you really see is the white, red, and black. Technically, you would see, if we wanted to get like super rivet countery, 3 green stars is the Iraqi 1991 flag. It's not the Iraqi flag nowadays. 2 stars is Syria, and then a golden eagle in there would be Egypt. But we're just pretty much going with how it is. Some of their opponents are going to be these Centurions that have been upgraded to Israeli shots. Not necessarily shot cows. I would have liked shot cows, but I couldn't find one with the correct engine deck. This still has the old original Meteor engine deck. If it was going to be a shot cow, it would have the new Continental engine. As everyone knows, the shot cow has the American engine in it, and the technically it's a Continental engine, Continental American engine, and then an Allison transmission. That bumps it up to the shot cow level. It's already been upgraded with the L7. I had to sort of make these guns myself, as I've had to do a couple times, and then I kit bash it with extra machine guns, homemade stowage, and homemade radio antenna. There's also a commander out of my bits box here for my commander, so I'll zoom in on him in just a second. Alright, so this is going to be my Oz 77 force, as we saw with 7th Armored Battalion, sorry, 77th Armored Battalion, 7th Armored Brigade, Lieutenant Colonel at the time, Avidgor Kahalani, Heights of Courage, Valley of Tears. You guys know the story, or at least I hope you do. If you don't, you will come October when we hit the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. Alright, so these guys are pretty much done. We can go ahead and slide them out of here. And today we're going to do a little bit of hobby, just to kind of knock these out a little bit. Like I said, this one already has been dry brushed. These 4 have yet to be dry brushed. We'll probably do a little bit of that. And cool, we'll get started. Let me find a painting tray. This will be a short stream tonight, guys. Just trying to make sure we cover our schedule a little bit better. And now I gotta find out what I did with that color of paint. I had it ready, I promise I did. That motivating apple barrel. You guys know. I should like make my streams like ghetto painting with Oriskany Jim or something. Jen says, Jen says no tracks. Nah, man. I wanted to change it up a little. I know you guys get bored watching me paint tracks all the time. The truth is, you guys are my cope mechanism, because I cannot stand doing tracks. It's super boring. And if I have someone to talk to while I'm doing my tracks, it makes it a little easier. Forgive my reach. My hobby desk is not exactly organized for live streaming right now. And this panel that's blocking the glare on my hobby mat is kind of cramping my left wing a little bit. So one thing that I always do, I don't know if you guys have the same problem, I always over dry brush my miniatures. Once they start to get dry brushed, I'm like, oh cool man, look at those details popping. Before you know it, my tanks just kind of drove through a snowstorm or a cocaine factory, or you know, the nuclear fallout or something. So I'm going to be very, very careful this time around not to over dry brush. Pretty much just the tracks, because I have a very, very light sort of a, they call it beachcomber beige is the technical paint name for apple barrel. 300-pound Nick says, yeah man, apple barrel my go-to for terrain. I definitely Probably use a little too much of that super cheap paint. But I tend to get away with it. Our recent table for Somalia, Mogadishu, won the Golden Button Award on the On Tabletop website. So there's a nice little, feather in your cap in front of a 100,000 person audience. And yeah, it's all cardboard and apple barrel, Elmer's glue, and so on. Now, before I come off like a complete Broward County Bolshevik here, oh man, I only use the super cheap stuff, man, because no, it's also, I do use Vallejo washes, to be perfectly honest, and I do use Vallejo airbrush paints, if I can find one. Here we go. When I'm shooting through my Badger Renegade. So I'm not completely ghetto when it comes to hobby, just mostly ghetto. But for my brush paints, no, you will not see me going to Army Painter or Citadel or any of that stuff. In other areas of my hobby life and even professional life, I've worked with other materials. I was sort of trained on, air quote, I don't want to say real artist paint, but like just regular. Oh, I'm going to paint on canvas. Bob Ross style kind of painting. So I made friends with some basic acrylic paints a long time ago. And they probably take me longer than a air quote real hobbyist that uses things like Citadel or Army Painter or stuff like that. But I've got 6 golden buttons. A fair amount of people on our hobby website, our hobby YouTube channel, Discord, and so on. So, I'm cool with what I use and where I am. I do not have any of my own decals either. These tactical markings here are hand painted, and those Iraqi markings are printed out on typing paper. Sorry, I know it's blowing out my white balance there, but they get printed out. And I just use that. With enough care and focus, and you take your time, you can get away with it. Ooh, one more secret weapon. Ironically, these aren't that cheap. I use these artist's brush pens. I have them in several colors. This is a black one, so nothing stupendous there. But I also have like in a dark brown. I also have some various shades of dark green, olive green, and they get used for certain parts of the pin wash. I don't so much paint my pin wash on the tanks as I draw it on there with those pens in some places, not all of them. And using the Vallejo dry brush, using the Vallejo wash where it works best, and using those brush pens where it's best, and kind of combining the two, you can come up with some pretty good results. The point is, you don't always have to use what they tell you to use in the hobby commercials. Despite the Discord, despite the YouTube channel, I never, ever look at hobby as a business, and I never will. Alright, so that's the first one, dry brush. You can probably barely tell on this camera, and that's a good thing. Because you can really tell, or you can tell to a certain extent more on the actual model in real life. And I think by the time you can tell, well, yeah, you can tell there, these two are definitely different colors. So this one has not been dry brushed, that one has. So yeah, actually here you can tell pretty good. That's what I'm going for. And that is what knocks it down a little bit from that 1943 Eastern Front motif. And a little bit more to the Golan Heights. That's what I'm going for. These two have been done, so they're basically the same color. These two are still pretty much that higher saturation. Broward County, are you coming up to Huracan next week? Negative, Ghost Rider. I'm not really a big convention guy. In fact, I have to make content for the channel. We have some 80th anniversary of Salerno coming up. Salerno, or Operation Avalanche if you prefer. The initial Allied landings on mainland Italy is pretty much already past us. The main invasion hit on... Well, the preliminary invasion hit September 2nd. We definitely passed that one. The main invasion hits September 9th. The big counterattacks are pretty much right now as far as 80th anniversary goes. The Kesselring and Hermann Balk and all my guys. Some of my favorite German generals of World War II, to be honest. Their big attack is... now. It's September 12th, 13th, and 14th, 1943. So that video is in the can. I've already started editing it. I was actually kind of hoping to finish it tonight, but we're doing this instead. No worries. Then I gotta build the Mogadishu video. We had a great game for the 30th anniversary of Operation Gothic Serpent, Battle of Mogadishu, perhaps more popularized as Black Hawk Down. That game was played. The film is all in the can. I just have to build 2 videos for it. Those are due at the end of September, beginning of October. The 30th anniversary there is October 3rd, 1993. And then October 6th, 1973, no rest for the wicked. We are right back to this. 50th anniversary of Yom Kippur. So, I guess long story short, take your first shot. I don't have time to go to that convention. I know a lot of my friends are from the club. Sadly, I will not be among them. I got way too much to do. Also, I've got a game this Saturday. We're going to be heading down to... Right, that's the 16th? Yeah, that should be this week. I think we're playing one of Mark's games. I could be wrong about that, because I could have sworn he was going to Huracan, now that you mention it. Yeah, so keep an eye out to this channel for Sunday's game. That game has been played, it's filmed, it's in the can. We had a pretty good game of Panzer Leader, where we, again, recreated part of that German counterattack, specifically Kampfgruppe Stempel of 16th Panzer Division, versus 143rd U.S. Infantry Regiment of the 36th Division. Part of that big counterattack by 14th Panzer Corps against U.S. Army 6th Corps of the 5th Army, a few days after they landed at Salerno. And that is where you see one of my absolute favorite, and another one of my top tier, was underrated, should get more attention than he does, kind of generals. So people who might be new to the channel probably know I'm no fan of Rommel. Nothing against some of his accomplishments, but way overrated. And that only really bothers me when other actually more capable and accomplished generals who fought much tougher enemies get overlooked. And that is definitely the case with the guy who damn near handed the Americans a serious ass whipping at Salerno, my man Otto Hermann Balk. B-A-L-C-K. Right about Rommel's command level, as far as, start of the war as regimental commander, went up to division, later commanded a corps, would eventually command an army, and so on and so forth. Did all the things that Rommel did. except he didn't do it. Balk didn't do those things, didn't win those accomplishments against, cowardly French like Rommel did, or disorganized British like Rommel did, or green as grass, brand new to the war, they barely know which end of the rifle is which, Americans, like Rommel did in the opening parts of the 1943 Tunisia battles. My man Hermann Balk was doing that stuff against the Soviets on the Eastern Front. And fighting the Americans and the British, especially in North Africa, that's like high school, college league. The pros are you're fighting the Russians. I would say once the Americans and British got out of the water at Normandy, they sort of had their shit together a little bit more. But down in the Mediterranean, no. I'm sorry, they just didn't. And I feel the history bears me out on that. So Balk gets pulled off the Eastern Front and moved over to Italy, where he fights under another one of my German generals who I feel is not recognized as much as he should be. That's Rommel's boss for most of his career, Smiling Albert Kesselring. His name was actually Albrecht Kesselring. The British called him Smiling Albert because my man had a grill. Do some Google images on the guy and you'll see what I'm talking about. Kesselring, K-E-S-S-E-L-R-I-N-G. The British called him Smiling Albert. But he was good. He was technically a Luftwaffe general. He commanded a 2nd Air Fleet during the Battle of Britain. And was the one that damn near won that battle for the Germans. Of course, he ultimately lost. But what makes him an interesting general, especially when you look at some of the bigger campaign level questions in the Mediterranean theater, is he was a general in the army before the war, and then he became a general in the Air Force before the war, and then when the war comes around, he's been a general in both services. He understands air-land operations a lot better than most German generals, actually better than most contemporary World War II generals, period. And that guy could stretch a buck. He could take very limited resources and really make them count. And he's really the one German general who, depending on how you look at it, and maybe if we want to have an argument about it, or not an argument, but like a debate or a discussion, he's the one German general who wins. Because guess who never gets out of Italy before the end of the war? I mean, did we ever actually cross into Austria? I think we reached the Swiss border and the northern part of Italy by the very end of World War II. But by then, the Russians are in Berlin, and the Americans are at the Elbe, and the British are approaching Rokossovsky's 3rd Belarusian front up there in the northernmost part of Germany. I mean, the war's over. And Kesselring, who was told to hold Italy, is still fighting the Allies in Italy. So you can almost say he's the one guy who wins. Or not so much wins, but at least carries out his mission. Nobody else was able to do that. Granted, he was fighting the weakest Allied forces, but... Now, if you want to really start a nice day-long argument with a Rommel fan, say something nice about Kesselring. Because a lot of Rommel's failures, Rommel fans like to blame on Kesselring. Because again, Kesselring was the overall German commander in the Mediterranean for most of the war. So, at least as far as the whole Desert Fox fighting in North Africa time of the war, Kesselring was nominally, well, not nominally, he was actually Rommel's superior, direct superior. And a lot of times, Rommel fanboys will blame his tactical and operational failings on Kesselring's strategic blunders. And no, I'm sorry, dude, the history does not bear you out on that. I'm not going to say that Rommel was ever terribly well supplied. And certainly Kesselring did the best he could, but He never, I mean, I'll admit that much, he never sent Rommel enough. But that doesn't explain why Rommel invaded Egypt when he was told not to. Twice. He was told not to. Twice. He came to disaster in Egypt. Twice. It's almost like you should obey your orders when you're in the military. This is where you get into the whole Ghost Division thing. Oh man, Rommel was so freaking cool. They never knew where his division was. They called him the Ghost Division because that wasn't a compliment. Other generals hated his guts, especially his superiors, because they never knew where the hell he was. When you're commanding a division, you're part of a corps. That corps is part of a Panzer group. That Panzer group is part of an army. That army is part of an army group. It's not a good thing when you take one of your nation's, premier combat formations and no one knows where the hell you are. Oh, you're 50 miles beyond where everyone thought you were. Well, guess what? The supply trucks aren't going to be able to find you. The air support can't find you. The artillery can't support you. Then you're screaming for support, wondering why no one's there with you. I don't know, dude. He had tried that shit in Russia. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Rommel. I'm going to bash on him all night. No German general who never fought in Russia ever has my actual respect. If you didn't fight in Russia, you didn't fight in World War II. At least as far as the Germans go. You fought in the minors. And Balk, man, that guy. Was he was also a real big guy in the post-war Bundeswehr, I think. He was relatively young, so by the time the Bundeswehr got sort of refounded in 1950, 1955, he was still of serving age. And of course, like I said, he spent most of his time fighting the Russians. And by 1950, 1955, of course, the Americans and British wanted to hear all about what it was like to fight the Russians, because reasons. Yeah, and so you got guys like Kesselring and Balk fighting the Americans, particularly the 5th Army. They're in what we're going to be doing this weekend, Operation Avalanche, the initial invasion of mainland Sicily. Let me get some more dry brush on this commander here. And, oh my god, the American commander there. Before it sounds like I'm bashing on the Germans too much. Mark Clark. Less said about him, the better. Whether or not he sort of redeems himself later in the war, or in Korea, he becomes one of the big 3 UN commanders in Korea, where he kind of redeems himself a little bit. That's like a matter of opinion, but I tell you what, man, he did not do very well in Italy, especially the beginning. His big plan for the Allied invasion of Sicily with 5th Army, and which included a lot of British units, by the way. British commandos. This is on top of Montgomery's 8th Army that was landing in other parts of Italy. 13th Corps was landing on the Italian toe. That includes 5th UK Infantry and Canadian 1st Infantry. And meanwhile, British 1st Armoured, that way John doesn't think I'm forgetting about the British, landed at Toronto. Now, that part wasn't Mark Clark's fault. If you look at a map of Italy, you look at the toe of Italy, you look where Toronto is on the heel of Italy, and you look at where Salerno is, how in the blue hell those 3 landing zones were supposed to be able to support each other is kind of beyond me. So that wasn't Mark Clark's fault. He wasn't in overall command. Overall was British command under Alexander's 15th Army Group. But then for 5th Army, specifically in Mark Clark's area, his big idea was, yeah, I'm going to be putting like 4 divisions out of the water in like a mini D-Day, but let's not have any shore bombardment or any aircraft bombardment, naval gunfire support, because I want surprise. I'm going to sneak up and just leap out of the water with complete surprise. Like, the Germans aren't going to see 500 Higgins boats coming at you in like broad daylight. Needless to say, it didn't go well. Now, like I said about Mark Clark kind of redeeming himself, he saw his plan went to shit. His guys were being absolutely massacred, not only on the invasion beaches, but further inland, especially once this big assault got started. Or this big German counter-assault got started, I should say. And he went onto the beach, and like, you know, like was like directing artillery himself. He was like in the trenches with his guys, and he kind of turned the situation around by virtue of his, you know, battlefield leadership and his, you know, personal courage. And congratulations, dude, you're an army commander. You're not supposed to be doing that shit. You're not a regimental commander anymore. You're not a division commander anymore. You're not a corps commander anymore. You're not supposed to be literally in the mud with your sergeants, corporals, and PFCs. I mean, he does kind of save the day there, but his planning is the reason why the day needed to be saved in the first place. But anyway. I will catch up on Mr. Chat here. I will see you on Saturday, Jim, says John. Okay, I thought... Good to go, John. Thanks very much. I could have sworn Mark was, now that I think about it, Mark's the guy running the game, that he was going to Huracan, so maybe his plans changed. Or maybe I don't know the date when Huracan is going. When is Huracan? Is it this weekend coming up or next weekend? Next weekend I'm running Yom Kippur, so I'm definitely not going to Huracan if that's the case. These are the tanks we're going to be using next weekend. I think it's the 23rd. Oh man, I missed a lot of stuff here in chat. Sorry everybody. You know what, I'm going to take a minute and catch up on chat here. So Nick says, I have Fighting Piranha print decals. I've got some decals. I do use them when they come in the box, but very often I'm using tanks for a purpose other than what they were originally sold for. So, long story short, take your second shot. I have to come up with my own decals. Like, not many people make decals for the 1991 Gulf War, which is what these tanks are really made for. But I'm also going to be using them for 73. Jen says, be sure to post your pictures on Discord. That's right. Oh, if you go, I see what you're saying. Go to the, sorry about that. I hit the mic there. Yeah, post some pictures on Discord if you're going to the convention, for sure. If you come, swing by and say hi. I'm the 6-foot-tall redhead in the vendor section. Looks like 300 pounds of mashed potatoes. I know the feeling, sir. Don't worry about it. But honestly, I won't be... I don't think I'll be at that convention. It'll give me time to get the next Starship Troopers game designed, says John. Those games are a blast. I've played in one of them. I got tabled twice, and I still had fun. I didn't get tabled the second time. I got left behind. They abandoned me. They were on the planet's surface, awash in bugs. I'm still a little pissed off about that, by the way. I mean, just because I'm a robot doesn't mean I don't have feelings. I was like some kind of, I can't remember the name of it, like some sort of automated combat drone. Because my squad got wiped out, so then it was a participation game, so after that, they gave me something else to command, like some reinforcements, and I was like some kind of, there's a name for it, but I don't remember. And they're like, oh, he's just a drone, leave him behind. I was like, guys, you're leaving me here? They also left all of Mark's squad behind. Those were actual people, man. I mean, okay, the dropship was like loaded with bugs, and one more turn, the bugs could have ripped open the ship, and then everyone would have died, but still, man. Rommel is overrated. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say he wasn't a good general. He's one of the best division commanders of World War II. But, I mean, the way people talk about him, it's like the best thing since sliced bread. By the way, I'm also not a fan of Monty or Patton. So that whole triumvirate definitely gets on my nerves. I will see you next Saturday. I'll see you on Saturday, Jim. Okay, awesome. Huracan is next weekend. This weekend is Pierre's Ridge, inland of Sword Beach. Okay, so Huracan is taking place while I'm playing Yom Kippur. Okay, that makes sense. Because Mark's going to be there for that game. But he's also going to Huracan, so now I'm really confused. I can push it back to Sunday if needs be. Or maybe Mark's not going for all the days. Let's see here. Rasmus says, I still claim to be the redhead, even if only the beard is red now. Cool. Yeah, time marches on, man. My hair is still the same color. I was born with a pretty full head of hair. It's just getting a little thin. So I'm going to be one of those guys that has like, 5 strands left, and but it's still black. So I'm going to have like this awful Trump-style comb-over going. No! And that's when Jen leaves me. Albert is the only air and land general. Yeah, Albrecht, can't remember his middle name. Albrecht Kesselring, and then the British called him Smiling Albert. And once you get a couple of pictures of him, you'll be like, oh yeah, I see why they called him that. He was such a cheerful guy. Honestly, in most of his pictures, he looks like, this guy's actually kind of chill, man. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when he jumped over to the Air Force. It might have been during Spain or after Spain. But he came up through the ranks of the Army and then jumped over to the Air Force a little bit later. And did pretty well. I see what you mean, Jim. Though he looks remarkably happy for a general. Yeah, he's Smiling Albert, man. Germany ran out of Germany before I ran out of Italy. That's kind of what happened. Now, he had a nice narrow front. He had extremely mountainous terrain. He was always fighting the weakest Allied forces of the 3 major theaters of operation. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and call him a miracle worker or anything, but yeah, he's definitely more capable than most people. It's not like people think he was bad. It's just no one really remembers him, which is weird. He was in charge for most of the war of the whole Mediterranean theater. So, and as such, he was not only an Air Force general, not only a Army general, but kind of an ambassador and a politician because he had to work with the Italians. Commando Supremo and all those guys, all of Mussolini's general staff. The Italian Navy, the Italian Air Force, trying to subdue Malta, the different plans for the potential invasion of Malta, which never took place, the potential invasion of Gibraltar, which never took place. I mean, there was a lot going on. I think Operation Hercules was the never quite happened invasion of Malta, which would have simplified a lot of Kesselring's supply problems. It's multinational, it's combined arms, it's air, navy, and ground forces in a way that few other German fronts really were. Some of the stuff up by the Baltic, maybe near the end of the war, the Courland Pocket and East Prussia, stuff like that. There's a fair amount of naval operations, mostly evacuations, but nevertheless, probably the most complicated, not the toughest theater, but definitely the most complicated. The toughest theater is always the Eastern Front. And so hopefully that's all the dry brushing done. Again, try not to overdo it this time, like I always do. Some corn cob teeth. Yeah, man. I told you we had a grill. Jen says, it's okay, Rasmus. I claim to be a brunette, but the white roots call me a liar. Brunette with some other colors mixed in sometimes, Jen. She comes home from the spa. She's like, look at me. I'm something else. I'm like, whoa, okay. Rommel had a great PR department after the war when Allies needed a clean general. Rommel had a great PR department during the war. And number one, it was the Germans, because the Germans really kind of fell in love with him, particularly Hitler. And the British, who were getting tuned up by this guy time after time after time after time again. I still don't know why, because Rommel had exactly like one tactical move that he did over and over and over again. How the British kept kind of falling for it is a little beyond me. But the British, to kind of make themselves look not so bad, began to extol the virtues and capabilities of their opponent. Like this guy was, you know, the next Alexander the Great or something. Well, yeah, no wonder we're losing. Look at how good this guy is. So, yeah, he was getting pumped up by both sides even before the war ended. And then, like you say, after the war as well. But then you get guys like Manteuffel, who commanded Großdeutschland Panzer Grenadier Division over on the Eastern Front, and guys like Balk, and these were the guys who, of course, Rommel was gone by that point, but these are the guys that the Allies turned to, or I should say NATO turned to sort of help rebuild the Bundeswehr in the post-war period. Mark Clark would have been sacked by Alexander for the shenanigans that were pulled around Rome. Oh god, yeah, I didn't even get that far. I'm still stuck on Salerno. I haven't even gotten to Rome yet, or Anzio, or any of that other stuff. Yeah, that was not going to happen, as the British could not sack a U.S. general. That's probably true, to be fair. There's a Kesselring flying for the Blue Angels. I wonder if they're related. Oh, dear God, I hope not. But I kind of hope so. That would be kind of epic. John says, Rommel, an example of the Peter principle at work. Great at a certain level, promoted above natural. Yeah. Also, he was promoted too fast. He was promoted too quickly. Again, he starts the war. Technically, he wasn't even a division commander yet. He was commanding one of the Führer brigades, or regiments even. So he was basically a colonel, or a very, very junior general. And then right up to division commander, where he really kicked ass, obviously in France. And then by 1942, he's a field marshal. That's like a 20-year jump in 3 years, from 39 to 42. It's a 20-year jump, from basically lieutenant colonel to, we don't even have such a rank nowadays, but it would be a 5-star general if we even had those in the U.S. military anymore. Hey, I'm okay with it. It lost them the war faster. This is also true. Well, I mean, by early Africa, they still had 57mm guns on the attack. Are we talking about anti-tank guns now? Yeah, 57s. The Americans had a 57, and the British had a 57. It's usually called the 6-pounder, but it was a pretty decent anti-tank gun for the time. Cool. So Mark Clark, oh yeah, should have been sacked by Alexander for the shenanigans that were pulled around Rome. Yeah, that's even further ahead than I was talking about. You're talking about May and early June of 44. I'm still in September of 43. So yeah, you're not going to catch me defending Mark Clark very much. I know that he does have defenders because of stuff that happens in Korea. He's like the third big commanding general in Korea. It goes from MacArthur to Ridgway. I think Clark is the third commander. So, cool. Hooray, I fixed the shit show that I caused. Give me a medal. That's, yeah, not too bad. That's actually pretty close to what happened. Wow, am I behind on the credits? They were more large with firing commanders back than in World War II. Well, yeah, a lot of nations had their back up against the wall, so... Okay, cool. So the camera wasn't that out. I really only have two well, I have it's a laptop that's running it, Nick. So there's the crap camera that comes built in with the laptop. I never use that for anything. And then it's really just one camera, but it's two pieces of software that present it, is what it really is. Virtually, it's two cameras. Physically, it's one camera. But again, it's UCam for the dice tray I normally use. If you look at some of our Hex and Counter games we have on Sunday, we'll have one definitely going on this Sunday coming up. Yeah, you'll see the UCam tray. And then this tray here is just the regular CyberLink software that comes with the physical webcam that I'm using now. It's a USB port, so if you shake the table just the wrong way, it kind of loses its grip on the main computer. Oh, I did take it. You went out when I took the drink. Okay, cool. The Blue Angels were flying here on Labor Day. Awesome. I was talking about it being part of Africa. Not great. 57 on the attack in a theater. Yeah, it's in order to use the 57 in an offensive role, you've got two choices. You can either motorize it, which I guess the British tried to do with some of their tanks. They tried to put it in the Crusader 3. The Crusader was really trash. The Crusader 2 was still trash, but they tried to fix some of it, and it still carried the 2-pounder 40mm. Then the Crusader 3 comes along just in time, I think, for El Alamein, maybe a smidge earlier, and that's where they try to put the 6-pounder in there, which they do, but they have to take out one of the crew members in the turret to do it. So now you've got a gun that's marginally better, but has half the rate of fire because you no longer have a dedicated loader. Yeah, so not the best. By the end of Africa, they were just starting to play around with the 17-pounder in the towed capacity. They certainly had not put it in the Firefly yet or anything like that. That comes along later in Normandy. But yeah, the 57, we'll see some of this in Sunday's game. Panzerleader is a game that'll teach you how anti-tank guns really work and how they don't really work. And they are definitely defense ambush weapons, for sure. The Americans were still using a 57mm that they bolted onto the back of a M3 half-track, which was not spectacular, like at all. But at least it was better than the M6 Fargo, which was the American 37mm anti-tank gun that they had bolted to the back of a pickup truck. No, I'm not kidding. It was basically a technical, is what we would call it today. But yeah, we've done that before at El Guitar. If you go back to our history a little bit, to March of this year, March of 2023, we did the 80th anniversary of El Guitar. Okay, so just to keep the stream moving forward a little bit, what we're going to work on next, now that the dry brushing is done, here are our smoke projectors. Of course, you guys all know what the smoke projectors look like. I'm going to use one of my magic weapons here, or one of my secret weapons, one of my real brush pens, to draw the little black dots on all of the smoke projectors. I'll take my glasses off for this action, because this is super levels of detail. I probably won't do all of these now here on the stream, because you guys probably can barely even see what I'm doing. But what we're looking for is just a tiny little black dot on each one of these smoke grenade launchers, without just painting the whole front of the cylinder black. You don't want to do that. So it's still a little wet and shiny, but that's kind of what we're looking for there. Cool. Let me quickly note one of the other things I use that is not crap paint. My friend Craig Pauls sent me this bottle. Ooh, up in Canada. I think 5 years ago, 6. How long ago were we in Canada? Did we go up to? It was a while ago. And I dry brush all of my secondary. Oh God, sorry. My bad. I dry brush all of my secondary weapons with this interference blue. So that's why it's lasted so long. I've been breathing out of this paint. Well, not breathing, but you know what I mean. Using very, very tiny amounts of this paint for several years now. And that's where you get that gunmetal blue on the secondary weapon. So it gets painted a dark gray, then it gets a pretty heavy dark wash, and then the interference blue gets dry brushed over it. And again, that's where I get that gunmetal blue. That's probably a better example here. In fluorescent light, my guns start to look a little too blue. They look almost like blue lightsabers by the time they get into fluorescent light, but they look okay. Whoa. I like that coming at you. Oh my god. So I probably won't do all of the smoke projectors with that thing because it'd be kind of boring to watch. Where are the... I'm trying to remember where the headlights are on this thing. So I'm pretty sure these are the headlights right there. I'll probably look that up a little later because I don't want to do it in the wrong place. Yeah, the Fargo was the hill of the 1940s. There you go. Okay, I have a sci-fi brain. I heard Firefly and I went straight to Serenity. Yeah, well, that's okay. Oh, I was working way down here and I wasn't even in frame. Yeah, sorry guys. Let me go ahead and do one in frame. Oh god, this is gonna be tough to do on camera. Oh my god. Alright, I'll try and do this on frame. In frame. Alright, there we go. Hopefully that came out a little bit better on camera. How close can I get this? There we go. There's no real autofocus with this camera, so I kind of have to do it by hand. Alright, so now two of them are done. I've already got rank insignia on my commanders. Yeah, let me, give me 2 seconds to, I'm looking forward to the Kickstarter for Bob Mack and his T-62s with reactive blocks. Yeah, I've been following Bob Mack since he was doing his Test of Battle series, I think on his own website. Way back since, you're talking about Bob McKenzie, right? From way back in, I think it was 2011. Yeah, because I was running, this is even before I joined Beasts of War, I was running a 70th anniversary campaign for Barbarossa in 2011, and yeah, he was definitely one of my sources. So yeah, he's definitely got some really cool stuff. There's going to be a bunch of Fireflies on Saturday, probably about a quarter of the Shermans on the table, unless there's a bunch of DDs around. Yeah, so Fireflies would have probably come off of the LSTs or the LCTs. I don't think they tried to DD any of the Fireflies. The DDs are usually the more vanilla Shermans. I know for the Americans, none of the Easy-8s or any of the various versions of upgunned Shermans on the American side were DDs for sure. Okay, so one last thing I wanted to at least take a stab at here on stream, then we'll probably close out the stream, is, if I can find my knife, adding some... I also have to find the materials. Was adding some radio antenna, because I always like putting radio antenna on my more modern era tanks. Oh god, and my hobby desk is a complete nightmare right now. Okay guys, we might not get to the radio antenna. There's a tiny little plastic bag of them, and that's the plastic bag that of course I can't find right now. Give me just a second to run a frenzied search of my immediate area of operations here. Those will work, but not great, Jen, because they're kind of the wrong color. Notice those are gray. We're looking for the black ones. It's not on the broom. I don't know if we have any more of them besides these ones I had saved. Give me a second, guys. I'm just going to quickly search, see if I have any of these things handy. Oh, my house is a mess. Or my hobby table's a mess. My house is pretty normal, but my hobby desk is anything but. Those are nails. Nope. They should be right here, but of course they aren't. Nothing's ever where it's supposed to be. Especially when I need it. Arrgh. This is annoying. That really is annoying. That's one of them, yeah. Are there any more in there? If not, we can just do one for the stream. So, cool, thank you. Well, that's a couple more. Sweet. One more would probably be enough, if there's one more in there. Because I'm not going to use this full length. Alright guys, what we're talking... That'll work, yeah, because these are going to be shorter. I appreciate it. That's probably just enough, Jen. So it's basically the bristle off of a whisk broom. Or I should say not even a whisk broom, off of a dustpan broom. And I have plenty of the... I have plenty of the smooth gray ones, which I use sometimes, but when possible, I use these black ones. Oh, are those black then? Okay, yeah, Jen just found the mother lode. She found the broom that they come off of. That's totally them. Do me a favor, just cut like one of those whole knots of them off there. Alright, cool. So now, the next thing I'm not going to be able to find, except I just did, is my brand new hobby knife with my extra fine point on it. And we are going to drill, hopefully, a hole in the tip of that. That is going to be hard. You see where, of course, now my... We're going to try and drill a hole in the tip of that little knob there. That's where the, not a hole, but like just a little dent, so that the glue will have an easier time getting in there and holding the radio antenna in place. Not gonna lie, this is gonna be tough. Because it's like trying to drill a 1mm hole in a 1mm surface. And of course the tank's gonna jump. It needs to be like 1/3 of a millimeter deep, not even. Just a tiny little divot. Alright, that was easier than I thought. So that's the hole that we just drilled. That was small. And the good news is that it worked pretty well. And now we will get a shorter length of our radio antenna, and it'll go right in there. With just a little spot of my favorite kind of glue. Reasonable men may disagree, but this is the stuff that always works for me. This gel tip stuff. Some people say that it's imprecise, and it is imprecise, which is why I don't apply it directly to the model. I get a little piece of scrap cardboard. Get a little spot of it. Get a little piece of spare toothpick. And that's how you can get the precision that you get with other kinds of glue bottles. Also, that's not quite... There you go. See how that glue is kind of watery? That's what I'm looking for. I like the gel stuff. Because it's like it comes pre-activated. It comes like half dried already. It takes very little to get the job done. And this is super easy because we were successful in drilling in that little divot. The only trick now is to make sure that it is 90 degrees up from the tank in both axes, so to speak. I'll put the cardboard behind it so it's a little easier to see. So you want it up there and up there, and it's probably, even though I used a smaller piece, it's probably still too short. Or it's probably still too long. And that's what we would be looking at there. Now I just have to do that 4 more times. So that and the smoke projectors are probably the last little bits of detail. I've already got them done on this tank. So that's pretty much the look we're going for. There's a completed tank there. The smoke projectors are painted in and the radio into... Oops. Ah! Damn you, Battlefront. There we go. And that's pretty much what we're looking for. And this guy is pretty much ready to go. Now I just have to get the other 4 tanks up to the standard. And these guys will be ready for Yom Kippur War 2 weekends from now. Probably part of the Assad Brigade that was helping support, I think it was 3rd Armored, 5th and 9th Mechanized at the Golden Heights, specifically at Valley of Tears, versus 7th Brigade in front of Booster Ridge on the Golden Heights, the Valley of Tears. Alright, let me catch up on Mr. Chan here. I'll also check to see where the headlights are, and once I'm pretty sure where the headlights are, or once I'm pretty sure now, once I'm 100% sure where the headlights are, I'll slap in some white for the headlights, and then like you'll see the headlights I had to actually add here to my Centurions. They did not come with these Centurions because the headlights were not added until a little later in the tank's development. This was purchased as a Centurion Mark III. Clearly it's not that anymore, but I had to add some pieces to it to update it to the standard that I wanted. I use, Nick says, I use nylon broom bristle for that. Yeah, I have nylon broom bristle, but nylon is too thick. I use nylon for like autocannons and stuff like that. For radio antenna, also I guess it depends on what scale you build in. I build almost exclusively in 15, 1 to 100. I use the dustpan bristles because they are much thinner. A smaller broom, basically. But, yep, they're bendy, they're black, they are ridiculously cheap. You buy one dustpan, which you need for your house anyway, and you basically have a lifetime supply. I will literally never use up all the bristles on that brush. So, awesome. I need to clean up, Rasmus says, I need to clean up my hobby desk. I moved 40 or so painted minis off of it. Yeah, I won't pan my camera up because I'll probably wreck my camera setup, but my hobby desk is kind of a train wreck at the moment. I love the 10mm minis, that's even smaller, but lordy, after an hour or so, you're going cross-eyed, and that's only block painting for basic uniform, not even any details. Dude, you're painting infantry in 10mm, you deserve what you get. I think I have some 10mm infantry, although that's as far as I got with them. They were originally bought for Drop Zone Commander. I used them for Battletech. But, yeah, that's about as far as I got with them. Again, too much dry brush. But, that's as detailed as I feel like getting with 10mm. Then I see these guys paint in, like, pico scale, 3mm or even 2mm. I'm like, dude, why aren't you just using, you know, hex encounters at that point? But yeah, that was my one and only try with that smaller scale. Some of these sci-fi armored vehicles, which I use for my Battletech stuff. They're not for Battletech, I just kind of, you know, kit bash them and use them for Battletech. I was into Battletech quite a bit back in the day, but I was not that into it where I'm going to buy the specific ground vehicles that go with Battletech. Yes, the Staffordshire Yeomanry were landed after the initial assault, so they had one firefly per platoon. Yeah, that's that standard 4-tank troop that you see with the British in 44 and 45. 3 vanilla Shermans, or M4A2s, whatever you want to call them. I just call them vanilla Shermans, the basic 75s. And then one 17-pounder firefly mixed in with the troop. Might get to see some N10s on the British side, maybe even the Achilles version. Yeah, so I think the Achilles is pretty much the M10 with the 17-pounder switched out for the American 76 long. So cool. Inboard, oh thank you, Nick. Inboard is headlight, outboard is convoy light. Sweet. So the right side mount is opposite the driver. Yeah, totally. I see where the two little, oh, get that out of here. I definitely see where the two little lights are. I just, you know, that was the kind of little detail I was looking for. Yeah, I got the vision ports in there for the driver's sight. It's, I like a greenish blue with a little bit of white highlight. Same with my other optics for the commander sights. And then the loader, I like how in Soviet tanks the loader and the commander are in opposite places. Usually this is the commander, this is the loader, but in a Soviet tank, of course, it's going to be backwards. And my little crappy attempt at glass there on my main searchlight. Oops. Alright, so let me finish catching up on chat, and then we will have been up for about an hour 15. 3mm is 3D hex encounters. Yeah, totally. Jen says, so tiny. Time for counters at that point. Yeah, totally. Time for counters. I remember Drop Zone, says John Sowerby. A good-looking game. Could never get any traction in it. It was... I mean, I never actually tried the game, but they had good minis. And I was really into Battletech. I mean, I've got my little atlas here, because you have to have at least one atlas. It's kind of a requirement. And some people are going to get mad at me, but I don't care. Clan Ghost Bear for life. So I'm one of those annoying clan players, or at least I was back in the day. I'm a clan player in BattleTech the way people who play Bolt Action will buy a army of 3 King Tigers in 28mm, and that's their whole army. So that level of annoying player, that's me in BattleTech. They'll tell me I have a 10,000 point army. I'll be like, okay, I bought 3 Mad Cats. Okay, I'm done. They spent 4 hours building this super in-universe, super cohesive, balanced, realistic inner sphere force, and then I come on with 3 Mad Cats, and I just pretty much table them. And then they get mad at me and they don't invite me to any more of their games because I play clan. I'm sorry, they're just better. They're super expensive, but that's what I do. Oh no, Jen's coming in. Jen, what are you doing? Come back. Alright, Jen decided to paint hers in these god-awful purple and green colors. But hey, I finally got Jen to paint some minis. I did the basing for her, but she did she painted all these minis herself. Hence the questionable color choices. Let me put my little atlas away. So yeah, wasn't super into BattleTech, but I was somewhat into BattleTech. I should say I was super into BattleTech back in the 90s. But then I went to other genres, obviously. And when I got back into BattleTech a little, I didn't want to plunge headlong into it. So when it came to the ground vehicles, I just, I picked up like a starter box of the basic humans in Drop Zone Commander. Man, there's a lot of dust on these. And I just painted them up, and these are like generic sci-fi vehicles. We didn't get super into it, at least as far as the ground vehicles go. We did for the mechs. That's the reason you play BattleTech, is for the mechs. But we didn't get super into it for the ground vehicles. Played a lot of Drop Zone test wrestlers. I remember you were at some conventions and won some games. Okay, there it is. Even a few tournaments and events. That's not a mech. Where are the colors? Oh man, come on now. I have my my red. I pretty much just painted 3 colors: red, desert, and blue. Blue are my clan Ghost Bears. Oh, I also have some oranges, and yeah, I got all kinds of colors over there. That's why I paint in BattleTech. When you get tired of all these browns, greens, tans, I go to BattleTech and I go crazy with blues and oranges and pinks, because you get tired of this stuff eventually. I'm making fun of my ridiculous colors, not yours. Okay, no worries. Clan is good until you Kursk them with medium equipped maxing charge. You get 3. Okay, so what I did for these Mad Cats, I bought the basic Mad Cat. I'm not a super. I used to be a big guy in BattleTech. I'm not. I haven't really kept up with it. I'm probably forgetting a lot. But the general idea, I kept the missile packs clearly on these Mad Cats, and I kept obviously the big PPCs. That's why you get Mad Cats. And then there was something else in here, like 2 other secondary weapons, like little autocannons or something. I took those out and I put in extra heat sinks with the modification rules. And what that allowed me to do was basically fire my PPCs every turn. Because if you just roll on the table with a Mad Cat, you're gonna run your heat's gonna be out of control pretty quickly. So I took a slight step down in firepower, and I said I'm gonna get real firepower, effective firepower, and just be able to use my PPCs every single turn. And that's where it got crazy. And I showed people the work, the math, everything worked out. The mech was legal, but he didn't like it because it shut the piss out of him like all the time. They kept waiting for me to run out of heat or waiting for me to have to pause to let my mech cool down with heat sinks. But I had additional heat sinks in there, and I never had to really slow down the fire on my PPCs. And 2 of these, I think they're the biggest PPCs in the game. 2 of these like gigantic 88mm guns just firing every single turn. Yeah, they just couldn't stand up to that. and I was getting at least a couple kills a turn per Mad Cat, and I had like 3 Mad Cats. So it was demoralizing for my enemies. I mean, they're also like a really big Omni mech. They're really overpowered, but it's all good. I also have some Lancers. I've got some Grizzlies. I've got some other Kit Bash stuff over there. I can't remember what those little light mechs are. Not the Lancers. I mean, I know what a Lancer is. I've got my Lancers. And then after that, I had something else. I don't honestly remember what the hell these guys are. I'll have to look them up. I know they were other light mechs. They're all magnetized so they can turn at the waist. But these are the old Iron Wind medals. What a pain in the ass to build these things. They look great once you put them together, but Jesus Christ, are they tough. Anything metal where you have to start pinning things together is definitely rough. But anyway, I've got a huge, I won't pull them all off the shelf. There's a huge blue force over there. Those are all my little Clan Ghost Bear guys. Alrighty, I keep saying I'm going to catch up with chat. I think I'm pretty much. The Prime had 2 ER large, 2 medium pulse, and 2 LRMs. Well, I definitely kept the LRMs, and I definitely kept the PPCs. Something I got rid of. There was like a smaller gauge cannon of some kind I took off, and I used that weight and space for the additional heat sinks. I was a Blackhawk Prime pilot. 12 ER medium lasers. Oh my god. ER is enhanced range, right? Or extended range. Min-max time. Yeah, John, I was one of those annoying players. I played, like I said, I played Battletech the way an annoying bolt-action player plays World War II. Alright, well, I got my whole army. It's been thoroughly researched. I've got my Paras, I've got my anti-tank guns, I got my bazookas, I got 2 King Tigers. That's my whole force. Oh, look, I won. In 28mm. His pieces are like, almost a foot long. Why are you mad, dude? I mean, I just... Get a few shots of your drop zone minis on the Discord. Awesome, cool. Yeah, guys, so, I don't think I did it because I was in such a rush. But if you go to any of our other videos, not our live streams, our videos. If you go to our videos on our video page on our YouTube channel, most of you guys already know this, but just in case, you will find an auto-accept invitation link. You open up the description, it comes down, and you'll see a link there. That is an auto-accept invitation link to our Discord. Everyone's automatically accepted. You click on the link, boom, you come to our Discord. It's like 200 members. We have recently cracked 200 members, so thanks very much for that, everyone, by the way. On our Discord, we're doing pretty well there. And it's historical, but by no means feel like you can't post sci-fi or fantasy if you want. Because we obviously, accept any kind of hobby. If you want to put it in there, that's great. And check out what everybody else is up to. It's a pretty open community. You will see like almost 100% historical in there, but you'll see some guys that even got, Dylan even has some 30k Mechanicus in there. So we even take, yes, we even stoop that low. We we take 40k, 30k stuff. I'm just kidding. But yeah, any kind of hobby is more than welcome there for sure. Your tanks are feeling better. The mechs are getting all the attention on the stream. Well, they're more colorful. Also, we've been looking at the tanks all day. Let's see. Nick says you can fire 6 per turn and not go into heat. If you saw something worth killing you forward all 12. Oh, for the Blackhawk, yeah. Yeah, management of heat is a huge thing in Battletech. I mean, I'm sure Nick knows what I'm talking about. To the point where sometimes you would see like an inverse battlefield. Like in most battlefields, you come in one side, the enemy comes in the other side, and, like they say in the movie, it's over Anakin, I have the high ground. You go for the high ground. And that way you have extended lines of sight, you can see the enemy before he sees you, you call in artillery, blah, 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 blah. In Battletech, I noticed some of those old FASA maps, which I still have a huge stack of, they're awesome. You go for the low ground. because the low ground is where the water is, and if you can park your fat ass in the water and just start firing missiles and PPCs that generate all that heat, you're in the water. Pretty soon the water is boiling around you, like you're in a giant mech-sized hot tub. But there were rules for that. If you were semi-submerged in water, you could dissipate heat more quickly, which increased your rate of fire, which increased your actual destructive capabilities. Bolt action. The reason I play two Fat Lardies games. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people play bolt action, air quotes, the right way. I think bolt action sometimes gets a bad rap, along with Flames of War and some of the other more popular games. I think it's most of the bad reputation that some games like that have aren't the game, it's the players. And that earns me few friends in the community, but it's true. A lot of times it's the lists that people build, and they're not realistic or whatever. I've seen people play bolt action historically, carefully, in a considered manner. They build lists that were actually there, and they have some great games with it. Management of heat is a big thing to anyone in Florida. John says, tell me about it. We just fitted a new AC unit. Yeah, heat everywhere is an issue, especially with these hurricanes coming towards us. We wish we could get a new AC. Technically, we kind of do. We rent a condo, and cool. Just keeps repairing the old one. You know what? Don't say anything bad about it, Jen. It's working for now. Mark has joined us. Mark, how you doing? Mark, what is going on, sir, with Huracan? So, the only reason I ask is I'm just seeing if I have an opponent for next Saturday, which is the next Saturday is the 23rd. I know you're running on the 16th. I'm running Yom Kippur on the 23rd. I think that's in the middle of Huracan. Are you not going to all of Huracan? I mean, if not, no worries. I'll just photograph the game myself. It's fine. We're going to be using 7 days to the River Rhine. I know a lot of other people aren't really going to be able to come, but next Saturday is when we're going to be using these bad boys. And this one here is pretty much done. We're going to be using these T-62s, a crap ton of these T-55s, against pretty much the whole Israeli army is right here on a 4x6 table. Sorry, 8x6 table. That's the entire Israeli force. 5 shots. It's going to be a desperate defensive battle. We're doing Valley of Tears. So these have been upgunned with the new L7 105mm. They are painted in Golan green. Kit bashed machine guns, kit bashed cannon upgrades from the original 84mm 20-pounder to the L7 105mm rifle. My own markings, some of them hand painted, some of them cut out of label paper, and my own stowage. So for people maybe not that familiar with the way Israeli markings work, I did not bother with the brigade markings. They would go right there because I don't want to get that specific with it. The rings on the barrel, those aren't kill rings, that's the battalion marking. The chevron is the company. Pointing up is first company, pointing forward is second company, and I think pointing down in a V is third company. And then that leaves you with the platoon and individual vehicles, which in this case is inverted, so I don't worry about it. That's just the way I like to do them. But technically, the Hebrew letter is the vehicle number, and the actual Arabic number, or like the regular 10-digit number that the rest of us use, is the platoon number. But the way I paint my Israeli tanks is the opposite. I just think it looks cooler that way. Also, I built my first couple of platoons the wrong way, and once I got that far with it, I wasn't going to have it be a mismatch. So at least all my stuff is uniform. I'm good this coming Tuesday and Thursday, 19th and 21st. Okay, so the game was scheduled for the 23rd on Saturday. if you're not going to be there Tuesday. I'm running Huracan Friday and Saturday. Okay, yeah, so there goes the schedule. That's okay, we'll figure something out. No worries at all. Alright, so I think I'm pretty much caught up with chat. Let me see if I'm missing anything huge here. Thanks for coming by, Mark, definitely. Thanks for letting me know that you are going to be busy on Saturday. Maybe we'll push it to Sunday? No, because Sunday you're going to be busy, probably. It's amazing how much the details make the mini pop. Thanks very much, Jen. And 19th or 21st, we'll figure something out as far as Yom Kippur goes. The Centurion, from Cromwell to Comet to one of the most successful MBTs the world saw. Yeah, John, once they put an American engine in it, then it was okay. I get to talk this way because one of the other big members of our community was an actual engineer with or with the British Army for God knows how long, well over 20 years. And they used their engineering vehicles were all old Centurion hulls. And yeah, they were always like about as reliable as the town's one hooker on payday. Odds are she's not going to be there for you. So, and the Israelis constantly were bitching about that as well. The gun was definitely awesome, much better than the original 20-pounder. Or the American 90mm that was being used in the M48A2 at the time. So both the M48A5 and the M60A1 and the Centurion all got the same L7 105mm rifle. I think the American tanks technically got the M68A1, which is the L7 built under license, but it has to fit in the American tank mainland, so I think there's like some nuts and bolts in different areas. Also, it may have fired slightly different ammunition, but I'm not sure about that part. The problem for the American tanks were, and this was where the Centurion was better, is the American tanks were not very good at handling the steep inclines and the rough, rocky ground that you often found on the Golan Heights. So you see that a lot in the 73 Yom Kippur War, where, yeah, you definitely have the shots and later the shot cows doing very well on the Golan Heights. Meanwhile, the Pattons, the Magog 3s and 6s, that's going to be the M48A2 and the M60A1 in American nomenclature, pretty much running the show down in the Sinai. Although there were lots of Centurions down in the Sinai as well. So you got the Shot Cal, which is pretty much the same thing, but the Meteor engine's taken out, the American Continental engine's put in, and the Allison suspension is put in, and that's when it really does become kind of the war winner. Because it's pretty much taking all the air quote weaknesses of the Centurion and nullifying them. And all of its strengths, of course, remain apparent. So, yeah, once you get to the Shot Cal variant, it's definitely awesome. Alright, guys, I think we are pretty much wrapped up here. It could be the Chieftain. Maybe the Chieftain's what he's talking about. Because when he was in... the engineering tanks were one generation behind everybody else. It may have been the Chieftain. He was never happy with the mechanical reliability of the tanks. Chinese Farm we played. That one game that we played down at the club was a little after Chinese Farm. It was on the other side of the canal. It was on the West Bank. But yeah, we might be doing Chinese Farm as well, because we haven't done Chinese Farm yet, at least at the club. So I want to do at least one Golan Heights battle. That's why I bought these Centurions. So we're doing one Golan Heights battle, technically, Booster Ridge, Valley of Tears, Heights of Courage, Avigor Kahalanis, 77th Tank Battalion. Probably the most famous tank battle in the post-war period, for many good reasons. And then we'll probably, who knows, we may do some Chinese Farm as well. Alright guys, so hopefully we have caught up on the stream. Thanks very much everybody for coming out. We've been up over an hour and a half now. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thanks very much everybody for coming out. I know it was kind of last minute, but you know, it is what it is, and we did the best we could. I'm going to hopefully finish up these T-62s tonight, and maybe post them on the Discord and on Facebook. So, speaking of all that, thanks very much for watching, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this content. Please remember to like, comment, or subscribe if you are not subscribed already. If you enjoyed this content, please remember to hit that notification bell. Also, for those of you who aren't there already, please consider joining the SITREP Podcast Discord. There is going to be an auto-accept invitation link to our Discord in the description of this video. So it's not there now, but if you go to any of our other videos, you'll find it there, and I'll add it there to this video as well in just a few minutes. Hit the link, join our community, see what everybody's up to, and, you know, best of all, show us what's happening on your hobby table. But for now, this is Oriskany Jim with the SITREP Podcast. We are rounds complete for another episode. And as always, Tango Mike for watching.